Hi, welcome to ITvideos.net, serial IT professional. Hi, my name is Leah Palad. Today we're going to talk about VDI, Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, the fundamental of VDI. So what is VDI? Well, VDI is a really computing model that contributes to the layer of virtualization between your server and your desktop computer. So what does that mean? Well, in the next slide, I'm going to talk about how this concept, uh, you know, will be implemented in a real environment. Um, clients can simply offers VDI can simply offers clients with access anywhere abilities along with familiar desktop experience, while concurrently heightening data security through organization. So what does that mean? Means is you can being a centralized infrastructure, user can access anywhere in the network and they still retain their experience with the desktop, with the configuration of their profiles. So pretty much they go from one level of building connects to one level of building and to the next level they connect to a different levels of building. They get exactly the same machines every time, so they don't have to take the data with them. It's centralized. uh, Everything is configurable and centralized, and it's the same settings every time they move to one machine to another. Now now basically it cuts down the risk, the risk of having a physical machines. um, you'll find that there are cost training on workshop or hosting with no rise in technical support is your call. Now let's talk about the first point, cuts down the risk, which means if you have a physical machine, if that machine breaks down, and if the administrator has not configured the proper storage and the proper profile settings, you could lose all that. So having a centralized desktop environment such as VDI, which means all your data, your profiles, your data, they're all centralized in one location, which means it elevates the management of that. It centralizes it. And going back to the second point, no cost training workshop for hosting because uh, administrator can remotely connect or shadow a particular user using a virtual desktop through the console of the host and actually watch the user perform. So we, the admin can support multiple issue virtual desktops at the comfort of his office and troubleshoot them and help simply the users experiencing the problem. Um, this is this is a third point is user experience satisfaction is really elevated because they have a greater treatment for programs and configuration their work requires, which means because it's centralized, you can create an image and customize that. You can create an image for a group of individuals or a department and lay that out with similar settings and configurable, and you can basically clone that and use it as your image and deploy that as a virtual desktop. So it's great experience for the user, and the settings are pretty much identical. So now the the VDI infrastructure is a centralized, is a data center. Simply, it's a data center where you have multiple server or hosts running, and you can deploy a virtual desktop environment within your host. And one of the virtual machine. This is, by the way, this is a courtesy of www.vmware.com. I have to acknowledge that because being a BCP, current BCP, I need to acknowledge that this is a typical infrastructure of VMware. Now, going back to this slide, as you can see, the data center is centralized. All your virtual machines are managed and reside within your, multiple hosts. Unlike a typical, unlike your typical machine or physical server, they reside outside your server and they are maintained individually. You know, you have different graphics, you have different graphics card if you're buying a different model. So it's important you standardize your desktops, physical desktop or virtual desktop for ease of management. So the host the desktop image within the central with the data center. Organization keeps sensitive data within the corporate data center, which means it's centralized. So if like a typical desktop, if it gets stolen, then if proper storage and profile settings are not configured, then most likely you will lose those information. Now, as described early on, it cuts down the risk because the the centralization is eliminate all those, the need for physical desktop that they could break down, and if they're not properly configured with profiles and storage, then there's a potential to lose all your data. Well, in a virtual environment, that's all centralized. You have multiple hosts and two or three storage devices that acts as a load balancing, and and then and then if virtual host breaks down, for instance, then you have the ability to move your virtual desktop from one host to another, and VMware is good at that. It's got products called vMotion, and with the aid of high availability, if the host is struggling for resources, then it can automatically move virtual desktop from one host to another to provide those resources required by virtual desktop. Now, the advantage again, you can roll out your virtual machines in minutes. Client computers tend to be more energy efficient and more durable than traditional desktop computer system, which means because you're running all your virtual machines in in your data center within your host, all the CPU, RAMs, and power consumption is already provided by your host. So that gives you an energy efficient. It reduce because of less technical support issue. Again, the issues can be handled by multiple, by an administrator, comfort of his own office, and handle multiple virtual, machines that are experiencing issues. So that eliminates the need for that person to walk over to a level 5, for example, of a building and see that person. Compatibility issues, particularly with single-user software, are eliminated or lessened. Uh, it, this goes back to having a golden image where you can configure that for a specific group of users or department, and then you can simply roll that out. You can roll it out in minutes, and the data security is elevated because everything is centralized. The users are operating in a virtual environment, so the profiles, the data are centralized and backed up every night. Now, there are disadvantages because the significant purchase of server and hardware perhaps kept in storage and network infrastructure. You need a significant amount of money to buy proper storage and server. You require a unique image for every user needing another group of program must have personal configuration or that necessitates the freedom to set up their own programs. So what does that mean is the more you configure a particular image or particular virtual desktop, for example, those particular features will slowly starting to consume storage space. Now, because everything is centralized, means you're gonna have to cater and plan properly for your storage. Because if you're running out of storage, not only one user is affected, but the rest of those users of virtual users that are experiencing or operating in the same environment because they're using the same storage. Obtaining a large server means a sizable initial outlay versus portable computers that may require in pace or upgrade a couple of at any given time. So which means rather than in a traditional environment where you can purchase relatively a small server to deploy two or three roles, where because here is centralized everything, and you need a proper storage capacity and a proper server capacity that will host your virtual machines. Therefore, therefore, the investment, the initial investment is much more greater than a traditional physical server. So I hope you enjoy the basic fundamentals of VDI. You can visit my blog www.itvideos.net for other videos, or subscribe to my blog for updates of pre-videos for serial IT professional. Thank you for watching.